There's a place the locals don't speak of. Not because they've forgotten it, but because they haven't. About a mile outside a dying town in the mountains, past the rusted fence, through a patch of black pines that lean a little too close, there's an old church. It doesn't look like much at first. Weather-worn, ivy-choked, cross half fallen from the steeple. There's no plaque, no services, just a black stone building with dust in its bones and silence in its walls. They call it Saint Uriel's, but only in hushed tones. Ask anyone old enough to remember, and they will change the subject. Not out of fear, exactly. More like respect. Like something in that place was never meant to be disturbed. But, of course, someone always does. His name was Nathan Kell, a grad student from out of town. Curious, smart, always digging into the margins of history, into the scraps and fragments other people left buried. He had this habit of chasing ghost stories like they were breadcrumbs to something bigger, something true. He came to the town in October, said he was researching pre-Reformation theology, said he'd heard rumors of a sealed archive beneath the church. Something old, forgotten. A place where certain texts had been hidden after the schism. Most people told him there was nothing there. But one man, a former groundskeeper, told him the truth. That the church was closed in 1983, after the last priest, Father Corbin, walked into the crypt beneath the altar one evening and never came back out. The diocese sealed the entrance, locked all the doors, left the building to rot. But they didn't tear it down. They couldn't. Nathan went inside 3 days later. No one saw him force the door. No one even saw him approach. Just a flicker of light that night in the high stained glass windows, and the sound of something moving beneath the floorboards. His car was still there the next morning, doors locked, windows up, his bag in the back seat, but no sign of Nathan. At first, they assumed he got lost in the woods. The surrounding land is steep and ragged, enough to lose your footing and disappear. But when a few locals finally opened the church doors, they found the pulpit disturbed. The floorboards had been pried up, and beneath them a trapdoor had been flung open, and a staircase was curling down into the dark. One of the search volunteers, a man in his 60s, described it later like this. The air changed the moment we opened that door. It got heavy, wrong, like the church had been holding its breath, and we just let something out. They went down, 5 of them, flashlight sweeping ancient stone. There was no dust, no cobwebs, just bare smooth walls that shouldn't have been there. They were too clean, too intact, like it hadn't aged a day. And then they found the library. It wasn't a room, it was a corridor, a long vaulted tunnel lined with shelves that disappeared into the dark. And on those shelves were books. Not hundreds, not thousands. More. None with titles, none with spines. Just shapes. Some wrapped in leather, some bound in iron clasps, some pulsing slightly in the light, like they were breathing. They didn't take anything, didn't touch a page, but they heard something. Not footsteps or breathing, something more like rustling paper, like thousands of pages turning at once in a room no one had entered, like the books were whispering to each other. That was when the first flashlight died. The second flickered. They turned and left as fast as they could. No one said a word until they were back in daylight. And Nathan, he was never found. But here's the part that still unsettles me. A few weeks later, one of the men who had gone down there started acting strange. He stopped sleeping, covered the windows in his house with blackout curtains, wouldn't speak above a whisper. When someone finally got him to talk, all he said was, "There was a sixth flashlight." They asked what he meant. He said he saw it just before they turned back, further down the hall, faint and flickering, held in a hand that wasn't moving. It just hovered in the dark, as if someone was standing there, frozen, watching. He swore it was Nathan. But the flashlight didn't wave, didn't speak, didn't try to follow. Just stood there and waited. St. Uriel's is still there. No one goes in anymore. The front doors have been bolted shut. The graveyard's overgrown. And every few years, when someone new asks about the place, the town warns them off. But if you drive out late, past midnight, and park on the hill above the woods, you might still see it. A flicker of candlelight in the window, moving slow. Not a flame, not a fire. Something colder, paler, like a flashlight held by someone who forgot what it means to leave. And the rumor is, if you go back inside that church and descend those stairs, if you follow the shelves long enough, you will find a book with your name on it. And once you see that book, once you recognize it, you will understand why Nathan never came back. Because once the book is written, it can't be unwritten. You will become part of the library too. Another whisper in the dark. Another name no one remembers. Another soul no one ever sees again. Some things weren't meant to be recorded. Some voices weren't meant to be heard. There's a farmhouse sitting off a dirt road a few miles outside a town no one visits anymore. The roof is bowed, the paint's peeled away, the cornfields surrounding it haven't grown in decades. The windows are black and the doors always closed. But the mailbox still stands, bent and rusted, like it's waiting for something. No one lives there now, but someone used to. The locals call it the Marrow House. No one knows why. If you ask around, some old-timers will say it was once owned by a man named Edgar Murrow, an audio engineer who moved out there in the 1960s to record silence. He told people the city was too loud, said sound had depth, and you could only really hear it where there were no other noises to get in the way. He was a recluse, spent all his time in the house alone, with a reel-to-reel recorder and a dozen strange microphones. Custom built, they said, to pick up things that shouldn't be heard. Frequencies buried beneath sound. Voices that didn't belong to the living. One night in 1971, he went quiet. When the sheriff came out to check, they found the front door unlocked, coffee still warm on the table, lights still on, and in the center of the living room floor, a hole in the wood, pried open. Someone had torn up the floorboards, and beneath them, a reel of magnetic tape. That is all that was left of him. Edgar Murrow was never seen again. Most people would have forgotten the place. But a few years ago, someone moved in. Anna Lyon, a documentary student from the university. She had heard about the story from a professor. It was just an offhand remark really, but something about it stuck with her. She became obsessed, dug through town records, found the house, and drove out there herself. She stayed for 3 nights, set up cameras, left audio recorders running 24/7. She said she wanted to capture the absence, wanted to hear what Edgar had heard, or what he thought he'd heard. She kept a notebook while she was there. The entries started normal. Notes on layout, ambient sounds, temperature shifts. But on the second night, she wrote, "There's something under the house. Not in it, beneath it. Like the ground is humming. One of the tapes keeps recording on its own. I left it blank, but when I played it back, I heard breathing." No one has seen Anna since. A park ranger found her car on the edge of the property. Keys still in the ignition. phone in the seat. Her equipment was inside the house, untouched. Her cameras had stopped recording. The last few hours of footage were corrupted. But her notebook was there, open. The final entry read, "The sound came back last night, louder. It's not beneath the house, it's inside the walls." I made the mistake of answering it. 1 week later, a janitor at the university found a package in the mailroom with Anna's name on it. There was no return address, and inside was a single reel of magnetic tape, carefully sealed in plastic. The university archived it without playing it. They thought it was a prank. But 2 months ago, an intern digitalized the audio out of curiosity. It was quiet at first, just static, the occasional creak of old wood. There were faint thumps, like footsteps in another room. Then, 37 minutes in, a sound, a voice, not Anna's or Edgar's, a slow rasping whisper that said, "You shouldn't have listened. You shouldn't have let it hear you. Now, it knows your name." The intern deleted the file. But ever since, they swear they hear something following them in quiet rooms. The hum of an old machine. The slow whir of a recorder. Like a reel that is still running, even though no one has pressed play. They boarded up the Marrow House years ago. But every so often, someone pulls the boards off. A thrill seeker, a ghost hunter, or a skeptic. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, they go missing. And all that's ever found is a hole in the floorboards and a single reel of tape, still warm, still spinning.